It usually happens in a split second. A door opens, people start heading toward the car, and suddenly someone calls it. Confident, automatic, like it actually means something. No one stops to question it, and no one asks where it came from. Everyone just accepts it. But if you slow that moment down for a second, it starts to feel a little strange. So why do we call the front seat shotgun? Out of all the words we could have used to claim a seat, why that one? Why something that sounds so out of place in a normal, everyday car ride? And more importantly, why has it lasted so long without anyone really thinking about it? Let's answer that question right here on History of Simple Things. Today, calling shotgun is a quick and informal way of claiming the front passenger seat before anyone else can. It usually happens in everyday situations, friends going out, families getting ready for a trip, or coworkers leaving at the same time. There's rarely a formal agreement, yet most people follow the same general idea. Whoever calls it first gets the seat. Some groups take it further, adding their own rules about when it can be called or where the person has to be standing. What's interesting is that the word itself doesn't describe the seat in any practical way. Instead, it describes the act of claiming it, which suggests that the phrase originally had a completely different meaning before becoming part of modern car culture. To understand where the term comes from, you have to go back to the 19th century, long before cars existed. During the American Old West, stagecoaches were one of the primary ways people traveled across long distances. These journeys often passed through remote and isolated areas, where the risk of robbery was very real. Stagecoaches didn't just carry passengers, they also transported money, mail, and valuable goods, making them clear targets for bandits. Because of this, companies hired armed guards to ride along for protection. These guards didn't sit inside with the passengers. Instead, they sat beside the driver at the front, where they had the best view of the road and could react immediately if danger appeared. This setup led to the phrase riding shotgun, which originally described the guard's role in a very literal way. The person sitting next to the driver was there specifically to hold a shotgun and use it if necessary. It wasn't symbolic or exaggerated. It was simply a description of what the job required. Shotguns were chosen because they were effective at close range and could quickly discourage attackers. Over time, the phrase became linked not just to the weapon, but to the position itself. Sitting beside the driver started to carry an association with awareness and importance, even as the original purpose of that role began to disappear with the decline of stagecoach travel. As automobiles replaced horse-drawn vehicles in the early 20th century, many older travel-related expressions carried over into this new context. Riding shotgun was one of those phrases. Even though cars no longer needed armed guards, the front passenger seat still held a certain significance. It offered a clearer view of the road, easier interaction with the driver, and a stronger sense of involvement in the journey. Gradually, the phrase shifted from describing a protective role to simply referring to the position itself. Over time, it evolved further into something people could actively call out, turning it into a quick and competitive way to claim the seat. The phrase didn't just survive, it became widely recognized, largely because of its presence in popular culture. Western films helped preserve the image of stagecoaches and armed guards, reinforcing the connection between shotgun and the seat beside the driver. Later, Modern movies and television shows use the phrase in everyday settings, showing characters casually calling "shotgun" before getting into a car. This repeated exposure helped spread the term across different regions and generations. Even people who had never thought about its origin understood its meaning instantly, which shows how deeply it became embedded in everyday language through consistent and familiar use. One reason the phrase has lasted so long is that it still feels meaningful, even without knowing where it came from. Sitting in the front seat often comes with small advantages. It's easier to talk to the driver, manage directions, or control the music. That makes it a desirable spot, especially in group situations where not everyone can sit up front. The word shotgun adds a sense of urgency, turning a simple choice into something people actively compete for. It's short, clear, and expressive, which makes it easy to remember and repeat. Because of that, it continues to be used naturally, even long after its original context has faded away. The next time someone calls shotgun, it's worth recognizing that the phrase carries a small piece of history with it. What started as a literal role during dangerous stagecoach journeys gradually transformed into a casual part of everyday life. The meaning changed over time, but the core idea, sitting beside the driver, remained consistent. It's a simple example of how language evolves, holding on to fragments of the past in ways we don't always notice. Even as the original context disappears, the expression continues to feel natural, almost automatic. And without realizing it, every time we use the term, we're continuing a tradition that began in a completely different world, shaped by very different needs and circumstances. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.